All right, we are live again. We are having technical difficulties. We got cut off. We're not sure why. It may be because, well, we're so far apart. I'm in Oklahoma City. Rodney's in Mexico, and we're doing this live for the first time through this platform on StreamYard. So we're just learning how to do this stuff. For whoever tried to show up, thanks for trying. So uh, what were you saying, Rodney? We were talking about
Come back, come
um,
back.
yeah, come back. We were talking about how Joe Rogan had diarrhea for 2 weeks, and I can't remember what you said after that.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, right? I'm doing both. I'm doing both. I'm doing heavy duty smoothies. I'm doing, and I'm eating. I'm doing the meat diet, the carnivore diet. No starches whatsoever. No bread, no rice, no pasta. I'm doing dark berried smoothies, and so that's where I am. I'm I would say at least 36 ounces of those smoothies, if not more. So, but here's the thing. I mean, there are a lot of you know, not, I don't know if there's a lot, but there are people out there who do very well on these diets. I mean, some people make the case that they've been doing it for years and years and years, and there's issues whatsoever. I mean, Joe Rogan did, though. I mean, he had 2 years, 2 weeks worth of nothing but hardcore diarrhea, and so I mean that's the case, right? But I mean, other than that, and I should say on top of that, you've got to look at what's going on environmentally with this livestock farming. Like I said before, contributes
Right.
significantly to greenhouse emissions, and that's huge, man. That's huge. You might not want to. I mean, you know, there are a lot of reasons that people do the carnivore diet, right? So the first one is just simplicity. Okay, a carnivore diet it's straightforward. Uh, it's easy to carbs. There's no need to prepare complex meals. It's just meat. That's all it is. Weight loss. Many report rapid weight loss due to lower insulin levels and reduced appetite. Animal foods are low in anti-nutrients, and the good thing about that is decreased inflammation. And I can tell you right now that's happened to me over the last, just the last 2 weeks. I mean, it's amazing. My digestion, and again, what I'm going to say is I'm doing the meat diet, but I'm also eating fruits as well. Okay. I mean, like tonight, I'm going to probably eat like 4 or 5 eggs with cheese, and then I'm going to blueberry um, smoothie, like huge. Like I would say probably a good, you know, it's going to be huge. Anyways, blood sugar control, mental clarity. You're satiated. Like you got to realize, man, like our quote unquote ancestors, 10,000 years ago, they'd eat twice a week, 3 times a week. They had to go hunt their food. And usually it was meat, right? So, that meat satiated them for 2 or 3 days. They didn't have refrigerators. They didn't have the modern, things in life that we have. They didn't have any of that stuff. They didn't have ice. They didn't have none of that. They had to eat the food right then and there. Okay, and so a high protein and fat diet for them made it so that they could, you know, just chill for a day or two before they went on their next hunt. So, I mean, I could go on and on because there's a lot of is it's just you can just simplify it. Okay, um, you know, you can eat like liver, you can eat like animal hearts, you can eat elk, you can eat buffalo, you can eat goat, you can eat, you know, depending on how you feel about, you know, eating animals, right? So yeah, there's a lot to it. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, okay, so I will politely disagree on people 10,000 years ago not having access to any kind of stored food. They certainly didn't have stored food like we have stored food.
Mm.
And they certainly did like to have fresh meat, but they would also smoke meat, and they would use salts to dehydrate meat if they didn't smoke the meat, or sometimes a combination of the two. Um, and we have pretty decent, I want to say evidence. I need to look for the papers. We have cultural evidence, I should say, that we have handed down information for prepping foods, not just meats like that, where we can smoke them, store them in various ways, as simple as digging a hole in the side of a hillside that has like mud and rocks and stuff that will keep things a little bit cooler. You can wrap some foods up in mosses and tuck them into the hole you've dug and throw rocks on top to hopefully keep animals from smelling and digging that food up and remembering where your store is and coming back to get it. And the Inuits have, at least presently, electricity free versions of like food storage, where they cut blocks of ices and basically just create an ice not igloo, but there's like the brand called Igloo. What are those called? Like what you put your beer in. um so there's ways that humans, tens and tens of thousands of years ago, could have and probably did store some food, but
I guess what I'm saying is like,
most likely, yeah. No,
yeah,
I understand where you're coming from. Is there's nothing better than fresh, and probably that was more likely the case in
right.
like winter and stuff. um in winter, you're going hunting if you're hungry, and there's not much food. You're and foraging sucks in winter. Trying to uncover some lichens or whatever the heck is still alive under the snow, or wherever you are, is awful in winter or during a dry season or whatever. So unless you're crop rotating during a nice healthy season like spring, summer, fall, I guess in a lot of cases, you're screwed if you haven't planned well ahead of time, and if you don't know the region and you haven't been there enough time to kind of like put in these routines to like keep your food available ahead of time, to plan in that way. Yeah, you're going hunting, you're getting meat, and meat certainly has a lot of calories. So there's this Dr. Z-Dog. Have you heard of this guy? Dr.
No, I
Z-Dog
haven't.
he's interesting. He's kind of a YouTube character. He does the whole uh develop a character for entertainment purposes kind of thing, but he's an actual medical doctor, and he's really level-headed. In my mind, he's not the type of person who's out there making a new career to sell books, and giving people false information in order to hype up that type of stuff. In fact, he says a lot of stuff that doesn't sell very well these days, and it's all
Mhm.
based on studies, scientific literature that you can check has been peer reviewed. And when he talks about this type of stuff, I like what he talks about, that there's first of all, that there's no cure all for everybody. I really appreciated hearing him say that, because that's the way I've always been taught, and the way I've always found to be true, is that my body's different than
I
most
agree.
people's, and
Yeah.
everybody's going to be different. So you
Yep.
should go to an expert. But I like how he boiled it down. He boiled it down to, there's like three things that you have to consider when you're doing kind of dietary stuff, and it's the, like, what you eat, how much you eat of it, and when you eat. And that covers everything. So your dietary restrictions can be caloric. That's like how much you eat. So you can fast, or you can, cut down the amount that you eat per day, or you can eat once a week, or whatever you're going to do. um some people eat once a day, and I guess that helps with some people, their genetic propensity, it helps them regulate their insulin a little bit better. They can just eat whatever they want, within reason, once a day, and at a specific time in a routine, and that's the way they regulate their stuff. um there's so that's when that's when you eat. um and there's caloric, and that's like regulating how much you eat. And then, so what did I miss? Oh, and what you eat. And you're doing a combination, I think, or no, you're basically doing what you eat, which is your meat and some fruits. And the way he says it works best for the vast array of humans is that you should always be doing one of these things to moderate your health. Be it, um, ideally what you eat, just making sure that you don't eat a bunch of junk food should be something all Americans should aspire to be doing, cutting out a lot of the processed food. So that's one thing. At least you're doing one thing if you're trying to cut out a lot of the processed food or a lot of sugar or whatever. Um, and ideally, you should occasionally be doing two things, maybe sometimes three. So if you cut out processed food, that's one thing. That's regulating, what you're eating. But then maybe when you're eating, which means, like, maybe you fast once a week, or maybe you fast once a month, or I don't know. But the idea is, his idea is, you should always be doing one thing out of the what you eat, how much you eat, and when you eat it. uh, Always there should be one of these things being regulated by you, and then occasionally you should add two things or three things to, like, your routine. I like this idea because it doesn't turn it into a cult. It doesn't turn it into a way to sell books. It doesn't turn it into, we have the answer and everybody else are moralistically, abhorrent. Kind of like the vegans. The vegans are like the annoying kind we've known about forever. There's nothing wrong with a vegan diet. I love it. Vegetables are great. A lot of science backs up the fact that an all vegetable, or plant-based, I guess I should say, an all plant-based diet is the only diet shown scientifically to reverse certain things like heart disease and, blah blah
Well,
blah.
it
Like,
reversed it for me, dude. It reversed it for me. I mean, I got to be honest. I went in July of 2000, July of 2023. I went full on vegan, like full on. And my PSA, uh, my my prostate, my PSA was 429. It shouldn't be any higher than 2. That's how high mine was. Okay.
wow,
And so that was July, August, September, October. 3 months later, it was negative 1.13.
wow,
Yeah, yeah. So, um, yeah, that's it's. Look, my body does well on vegetables and fruit and vegetables. Okay, but I will say, since I've been on the, I've just been eating meats, and not just meats. I've been preparing these myself. Like I did, I'm not going out. I'm not buying any processed food or anything like that. I've been cooking all of this stuff myself, right? And okay, so the reason I'm saying all of this is because what this does is it gives your body, okay, um, a break. It's something called, so I'm just going to give you a little information here for all you people out there that are listening. and or will probably listen to this. There's something called autophagy, okay? And autophagy is basically, it gives your body, and I'm gonna, hold on one second here. So autophagy, right? It's cellular, it's a cellular housekeeping process that is critical for maintaining cellular integrity and homeostasis by degrading and recycling damaged or unnecessary cellular components. And that's what fasting helps you do. Okay, the process of autophagy involves several key steps. Okay, and each regulated by complex signaling pathways and specific proteins. Okay, and here's an overview. So, or better yet, I'm not okay. You have the induction, you have the nucleation. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it, but look up. I'm looking at all the information right here. This isn't hard. Just look up autophagy and how it helps the human condition. And basically, what it's based on is OMAD, 1 meal a day or 2 meals a day. You know, if you can fast, let's just say you have an eating window. You know, of let's just say you eat from 11 to say 7 o'clock, and then from 7 to 7, you know, you have 14 hours in which your cells or which your body gives itself time to just like regenerate and just take it easy, and you know, give your gut time to, you know, digest the food, as opposed to the modern American diet where we're eating all day long, we're snacking, we're eating, we're snacking, we're eating. We eat at 10:30 or, you know, 11 o'clock before we go to bed, on top of eating foods that just really aren't good for you, you know, eating processed foods, eating cereals that are processed, that are just, you know, loaded with sugar, okay? I mean, look, if you want to be healthy, there's a way to do it, okay? And this isn't rocket science. You know what I mean? Like, people are like, well, how do I, dude, eat real food. Eat real food, whether it's plant-based, if that, you know what I mean? Eat real food, man. Whether it's plant-based, whether it's, you know, a carnivore diet or a lion diet, just eat real food. That's what it comes down to. And you'll probably fare relatively well, you know. If bottom line, I wouldn't be here. Better yet, I'll even tell you this. I stopped drinking 8 years ago. This month. Yeah. I had a, well, actually it was, I went out, it was March 18th, 2016. I went out on St. Patrick's Day when I was, you know, out of control. And I drank my ass off, dude. And I would do that all the time. I was, you know, I was playing music in bars. You know, if you look up, you can go to you can go on YouTube and look up my music, Rodney B. Hubbard. But yeah, you know, playing music in bars, just going out, and like I was playing 4 times a week. That's kind of how I made my living. I was playing 12 times a month, but I was eating bar food. I was drinking whiskey. I was drinking beer. I was smoking cigarettes. Every once in a while, I, you know, roll a blunt. You know, I'd smoke one of those, and that's what I was doing. On top of all of that, I was in the Marine Corps for 6 years, dude. Are you kidding me? The amount of booze and beer I drank in the Marine Corps was so. And not only that, dude, I drank a lot anyways, but I had to quit. You know what I mean? And I really believe if I hadn't quit drinking and smoking and literally eating all the bad food that I was eating, I'd be in a lot of trouble right now. Or I wouldn't be here. Better yet, I wouldn't even be here. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, you know, it takes time to figure it out. It just takes time. One day you figure it out and you're like, maybe, maybe I shouldn't drink anymore. Because I was that guy, I couldn't have one drink. If I had one drink, I had 8 drinks, right? Pago and I met each other in California. We were in a band together. And trust us when we tell you, we were crazy. After you,
Yep.
my friend.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you spoke to the autophagy thing. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah,
And
you
I,
are.
instinctually, it makes sense to me that that's probably what's happening with the meat diet. I'm saying an all meat diet. No, you know, no super loading with vegetables, no super loading with fruits. Is that essentially, well, I mean, you can look at what happens when people get lost in the wilderness or try to go to, survival mode, and they hunt, they're only able to hunt rabbits. There's like this known thing, can't remember what it's called, but there's this known thing that happens where people will, it's not just with rabbits, it can happen with elk, it can happen with anything. If you are only eating like low fat, lean meat, and eating it every day, all day long, you can still starve to death. So your body can go into this mode where you're fasting basically. So it makes sense to me that you can trick your body into essentially fasting with like this all meat diet. And I think that that's neat. I also think that that's very dangerous. I'm not warning you, Rodney. I know you know your stuff. I'm just
Yeah.
saying for me, when I said in part one that like things like that scare the crap out of me, they scare the crap out of me. I don't want to hack my body any more than I need to, because as you expressed very correctly, you and I did a lot of risky work on our bodies very early on and for a lengthy period of time. And so,
Woo.
yeah, so who knows what kind of
Oh
mechanisms
my God.
inside my body are kind of on a precipice, and just require one little weird experiment to be pushed over and take me off of a weird edge, a weird cliff. So I'm going to be very careful and continue. I've done a pretty good job myself of weaning myself off of tons of excess of alcohol. I don't smoke right now. I don't even smoke weed, which I don't think anybody in my life would ever believe that. I would believe that I got to a point where I don't smoke weed, but I don't. I don't smoke weed. Occasionally, and it's probably been 2 months. Occasionally, I will eat some edibles, and it's just the tiniest little bit. I'm like an old man where I'm like I cut off a sliver of an edible, and it lasts me for the day. Um, and I don't really drink except major holidays, and even then, it's not every holiday. I think that the last time I was legitimately drunk was fall 2023, maybe. It's I
Wow.
can't I don't know if that's accurate, but that's pretty close. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm trying to do better, and the same thing goes with food, but it's hard. It's just hard as an American. But my wife is a pastry chef, and she works at a really nice restaurant, and sometimes they send us home with food that whatever there was too much of it, there was some sort of big event, and they're like, here, go home, take this with you. um and I will occasionally look at that and break down and eat something that's got way too much sugar. It makes me feel like shit these days, as an older person, but as an American who's piled junk on top of junk on top of junk. And my body, certainly I can feel that my body is kind of deregulating with like kind of the insulin sensitivity or whatever the hell it is. And as that's occurred more and more, I've responded by backing off of eating as many processed foods, and eating whatever the hell I want whenever I go to Costco or whatever and I buy stuff. I now think about hitting the outside edges of, this is more like a typical grocery store, hitting the outside edges of a typical grocery store, where that's where the real food is, and the processed food is kind of in the middle, where like the cereals and the often the crazy weird frozen food, that kind of stuff sits in there. So I think about that kind of stuff. I try to eat better. I eat a lot of like nuts and berries mixed together in like little trail mixes that I make myself. Like I make stuff where I'll go to like healthy food stores, and Costco has a bunch of stuff. You have to read the labels. I'll mix the little Ziploc bags full of this good for me stuff and snack on that instead of going straight for the potato chips or something packaged and processed and sweet. So I'm trying my best, but it is hard. And I think that one of the more important things to think about with this type of stuff is to not beat yourself up too much when you do falter. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's going to be able to avoid making a mistake all the time. So if you do make a mistake, I think one of the worst things you could do, at least what I've been told, one of the worst things you can do is to like punish yourself, like, you know, like the religious flogging where you'd do the self-flagellation or whatever, doing that for a couple of days, and like maybe fasting, and then um going back into your routine, and then messing up again, and going into this cycle of like, you know, doing okay, messing up, flagellation, and then cycling again, is apparently pretty bad for your body, because your body will go into this kind of shock where it'll start storing, you know, more fat
Fat.
and processing things differently, because it expects you to go through these consistent you know, fast and feast and famine cycles. So apparently that type of cyclical action is even worse than just occasionally messing up. So if you're going to mess up, just mess up, and then take, you know, a little longer of a walk the next day or the day after that, whenever you can get to it, but continue on what you want to be doing, like what you know is good for you, and then allow for yourself to have a cheat day, or allow for some mistakes, and continue on with that mindset that being imperfect is fine, and not to freak out and starve yourself for a couple of days, because you're only going to make things worse. I have to keep reminding myself of that. That's not something I was in the mindset of when I was younger, but I can certainly feel that it's better for me now when I keep a level head and try to plan ahead of time. But when things don't go my way, keeping that level head, and going back to just like normal habits immediately, it makes me feel better.
No, I mean, I get it. You know, I mean, see, here's the thing. Once upon a time, you know, in this country, or just worldwide for that matter, people lived off the land, right? And then once we became quote unquote consumers, and you know, we could go to the grocery store and buy things that were processed in factories. You know, the modern American diet was established, right? And the acronym, or the abbreviation for the American diet, it's called the Standard American Diet. That's SAD, sad. I mean, it
Mhm.
doesn't get any worse than that, dude. The diet that Americans eat by and large is sad. Okay, I mean, look, processed foods, red and processed meats, prepackaged foods, fried foods, high sugar intake, high fat dairy products. Um, you know, as opposed to fruits and vegetables, whole grains, fish and nuts. Literally, you can. That's literally all you need. Fresh fruits, vegetables, whole grains. You know, if you can afford grass-fed meat, or organic meat, or you know, because fish, grains, nuts, vegetables, they have carbs in them. You don't need pasta. Well, you can do whatever you want. You know, people love pasta, people love bread. I mean, I get it, man. I get it. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to like. I live in Mexico, dude. Do you understand that I can buy 10, excuse me, I can buy six or seven of the most amazing carne asada tacos that you've ever eaten in your life. Okay? Where Senorita is hand pressing the tortillas right in front of you.
Oh my
They're
god, that's
oh
the
yeah,
best.
dude, yeah, dude, dude. I'm telling you, this it's off the hook, bro. It's off the hook. The food here is so incredible. It's just like, but I'm like, dude, if I do that, if I, I mean, I buy them, and what I do is I buy them, and I just eat the meat and the avocados, and then see the thing is that when she makes those tortillas and when she makes those tacos, you get radish, you get all these, you get lime and lemon. She puts you get like 8 or 9 radishes that you can eat with the. Oh my god, it's so good! It's so good. But people, in America, I mean, dude, you're going to McDonald's. You think eating food from Starbucks is relatively healthy when it's literally not. Okay, it's frozen. I mean, all those sandwiches you eat from Starbucks, they're frozen. All they just put them in a microwave and they heat them up, and that's what you're eating. That's what you're eating. There's a high of sugar that we eat. I mean, dude, we're America has we have an obesity problem in this country, dude. I mean, like it's not even a joke. Okay, everything in this country is high in saturated and trans fats. Just a lot, not everything, but a lot of it is. A lot of it is. Okay, a lot of the food we eat is low in fiber. Okay, people don't eat fruits and vegetables and whole grains anymore. They just don't. They don't. They'd rather go out and eat a pizza. Well, no, dude, that's dough. Okay, Americans consume more sodium, which is largely due to processed and restaurant food. And there's no micronutrients in the food. I mean, I could go on and on because I mean I looked at this stuff. I mean, an egg is an egg. It's an egg. Okay, that's what it is. You put it in some butter, and you're good. You eat 2 or 3 of those, and I guarantee you won't need to eat for another. Throw a little slab of cheese on it. You won't need to eat for 4 hours. It'll satiate you. It's protein. I don't know. And then you eat that, and then you make yourself a smoothie, mango, freaking, blueberry, raspberry, strawberry, whatever kind of berry, blackberry, smoothie, and you drink that after. You're good. You're good. Drink 40, 50 ounces of water a day. Water, good for you. Okay, don't forget agua. Okay, I'll stop because I'm telling you, bro. I know what it's like to be in a situation where, like, dude, that smells so good, and you go up there and you just chow the fuck down. Anyways, I'll stop because that's how I just get in trouble. Anyways,
Yeah, I
yes.
mean, my wife works in the restaurant industry, and so that's my most immediate current day access to information about how poorly we're eating when we go out. I'm not saying don't go out to eat because my wife needs to keep her job, and I need her to help with rent, and but it's true via her and via all of the chefs. I'm on a few chef subreddits. I think Kitchen Confidential is one of them. Shout out to you guys if anybody ever finds this feed, and a few others where it's discussed nearly daily that the reason the food at a restaurant tastes so much better, and it does taste so much better, is not always just because, and sometimes not even because, the chef is like a fantastic cook who learned to cook these amazing dishes underneath whomever in France or whatever. Often it's purely because there's a shit ton of butter and a lot of salt in it that will make nearly anything taste 10 times better. So if you're a bad cook, if you're struggling in the kitchen at home, and you're wondering why, and everything tastes bland, and nobody likes any of the food you cook, Have you tried just like drenching it in butter, because that will up your game, but it will also kill you if you are not careful with the quantities. Like anything in excess is going to kill you. So talk to your doctor before you start throwing like buckets of butter onto your food. But this is the theory in
Well,
restaurants.
not on that. I mean, you got
Go ahead.
the starch. Here's the thing: the starches that they're eating, the starches. If you're throwing that amount of butter and salt and sugar too, bro. I mean, the reason it tastes good is because there's butter, salt, and sugar, and it's pasta. Okay, it's the sauces, it's the oils, it's the saturated fats, it's the trans fats, it's all of that stuff that goes into a dish that's made in a restaurant that can literally. I mean, look, we're all going to hit pay dirt at some point, but you know what I mean? It's a situation where you don't have to like literally ruin your life because you're having cravings, you're having dude, I know because I was there like just 2 months ago. It was just like I couldn't stop eating, bro. I couldn't stop eating. There's like the social and the environmental approaches to like the socioeconomic disparities in obesity in this country. That's another thing. Like there are parts of this country for just people who are poor, who they experience or live in food deserts. So the kind
Yeah.
of food they eat is just absolutely not good for you. Okay,
Right.
they're going to 7-Eleven to buy their groceries. They're eating hot. They're eating. Oh, dude, come on, dude. You and I both been on a bender and gone to 7-Eleven and eaten 7-Eleven food, or gone to get a burrito at freaking 2 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? I mean, need I
Yeah,
say
not in
more?
years, but yeah, not in years, but definitely. And you're exactly right about like it's easy enough to say, hey, eat healthy, but that requires planning, it requires money. So I don't fault anybody for not having access to certain things. What I am saying is that it's worth the attention to see if you can figure out how to shift your diet into a better situation. So, I know not everybody can just go out and better paying job, or magically make a nice grocery store appear down the block or whatever, or even make the food more affordable in those grocery stores. Man, I understand how expensive these things are. I hate to see people like Tucker Carlson go on the internet and tell everybody that food is so cheap in Russia, and make everybody feel bad about their ability or inability to afford things here in America, without context. Like, well, the people in Russia aren't getting the wages, they're getting even less wages than we are here. And that grocery store was in dead center of a metropolitan area, and people in America are spread out. There are lots of people in rural areas and in even urban areas with food deserts, and there's so many different situations, because the United States is so big that everybody has a different situation, both with their body and external to their body. So in their cities, in their communities. So nobody here is shaming anybody for any of that stuff. I think I can speak for both of us when I say we just want the best for everybody. We want people to start thinking about how to get to a point where they can eat better, or understand what they might need to do to start moving in that direction, right?
I agree. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, the efforts. I mean, it's an epidemic, right? Um, and especially, on obesity is a health problem. Okay, that's why there are people out there that are like, hey, man, what am I going to do? How am I going to combat this? How am I going to save my life? How am I going to live 5 years, 10 years longer? How you know? Um, yeah, dude. It's hard. It's hard to put ourselves in a situation that some people live in this country. that don't have the wherewithal to even be in a situation where they can buy the food. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, you know, it's bad.
Yeah, and I want to personally call out the people who I see, and you can't believe you can't believe everything you read online, and I think more to the point, you can't believe that the representation of attitudes or opinions you're seeing online are really representative of what's going on out in the streets, because we have disingenuous actors, and we have bots, and we have all sorts of political things going on online, that where people are being disingenuous or ugly or whatever. But I have seen for many, 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 many years a large number of people out there kind of fat shaming and claiming that it's anybody who's overweight or struggling with their weight. It's there are far too many people out there claiming that that's just a choice. Just if they were just smart enough, or like brave enough or wise enough or whatever, that they would solve that immediately. And I think that you touched on that very well, with like the notion of not everybody can afford it. There's the food deserts. There's also genetic predispositions, and a lot of these like call outs by these awful actors, whatever they may be, are dismissive of that. They say, no, there's no such thing as like a genetic predisposition towards being like fat or big boned or whatever they're mocking for the day or for the moment. um and the reality is, it is our American diet, and a lot of that is pushed by um the 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 addiction to money by the people who are producing these foods. It is these type of hyper produced foods that is making us sick, because we've exported them to other countries and seen those countries get sick in the same way that we do. And we have two-thirds, I believe is the stat, two-thirds of our country is now either pre-diabetic or straight up obese. And basically
That's insane.
was the type 2 diabetic. So this isn't a deal where two-thirds of Americans are just like just so addicted to food that they are committing slow suicide on purpose. um, a lot of people realize that the food is bad for them, but there really isn't an alternative that's accessible to them, be it because they don't make enough money, there's the food desert, there's not quality foods near enough, or their routines, their social circles don't allow for it. I find myself having to go to like family dinners and stuff where there's not an option for whatever I'm going through at the moment, whether I'm restricting my diet in certain ways or whatever. They're drinking, they're eating these meaty, high fat, high sugar diets, and that's like all that's there, to typically on like
Mm.
Thanksgiving, Christmas, that kind of stuff. And that's happening to a lot of people, where there aren't options for whatever reason, and they find themselves falling into these kind of unhealthy patterns. And like you said earlier, once you get that stuff into your system in the wrong quantities, in the wrong levels, it triggers. We do know through studies that these bad foods, these high sugar, the wrong fats, trans fats, and all that, they're as addictive to your brain, to your body, as the opioids are. That have been causing the opioid crisis. We also know that's true of just cheese, which is a reason a lot of people enjoy cheese. They're very aware of it, and they're cheese junkies, and I don't fault them. They will go around testing and eating fantastic cheeses from all around the world. I get it. I'm not that in love with cheese. I like it. It doesn't like me back some of the time, but there are certain ones that I am in love with, like Havarti. Shout out to Havarti and any of my Havarti lovers out there. But food can be an addictive thing. It can have a reward center thing. Addictions are not something that anybody can just back out of upon deciding to do it. So even when it is an addictive thing, there are a lot of people who absolutely need help to rein in their addictions. Not everybody can just cut cold turkey. or even wean themselves off. Addiction is a very strange thing, and it affects everybody different. So if anybody out there thinks that everybody who has an addiction is weak, you haven't been walking in their shoes. You don't have their genetics. You haven't lived their life. You don't have their mind frame. Um, you can't judge those people and tell them what it's like to go through that experience. If you've ever had a problem in your life where it was a struggle to change those things, and I'm of the belief that everybody has had that, then maybe reflect on those things before you start pointing fingers at everybody who is currently not running a perfect game with their dietary needs and intake and the results. It takes years sometimes for, often in fact, for dietary imbalances to show up in health imbalances where you've got deficiencies and diseases pop up. So some people only discover that they've been doing this type of damage to their body much further down the road than it would otherwise make it easy to change. So that's another thing we have to keep in mind when somebody is going through a struggle with this stuff. So anybody out there who's struggling with it or who's watching other people struggling, and if you're criticizing yourself, judging yourself, or if you're judging and criticizing other people, I say back up, take a breath. Try to be a little bit more positive. Try to help yourself or those people out, instead of condemning yourself or condemning other people, and start reaching for some better options when you can. And if you can't immediately, try to figure out how to get into a better situation where that's more possible.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's there's really no conclusion to this, right? I mean, there's nothing we can say. Well, in conclusion, I mean, there's no real conclusion because here we are, it's 2024. We're stuck inside on our laptops, on TikTok, on YouTube, on whatever else is out there. We're not outside anymore. We don't do that like we used to. I know, people go to the gym. Don't get me wrong. People go to the gym. I see people out there, but you got to live in San Diego or something like that, right? Where you've got 24/7 access to beautiful weather, right? I mean, you can do that here. You can do that. Like I work out every day outside here, in Mexico. It's 68 to 72 degrees every single day. Like, whether it's cloudy or sunny, it doesn't matter. So, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, no, you don't have to go on the carnivore diet. No, you don't have to be a vegan. But stop eating bad food, man. Stop eating bad food. Bad food is bad food. I mean, that's just the way it is. I know every once in a while you're in a hurry. You got to stop at McDonald's or Burger King or, you know what I mean? Take the bun off the food. Just eat the meat and the cheese and the pickles. Don't eat the sugary bread. Don't eat the white sugary bread. Don't order fries. That's just saturated fat, trans fat. That's all that is. With the oils that they fry that stuff in, you're asking for it. Okay. So, stop doing that to yourself. It's not worth it. Okay.
Yep.
I had to, I mean, I had to literally I had to move back to California / Mexico to lose the weight because I knew that sitting in my mom's house, because I was her caretaker. Here's the thing. I bought a house in Maryland and I was like, I'm going to live in my house, but my mom needed help. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to rent my house out. I rented it out. And, I'm like, dude, I weigh 240. I went from 203 to 249.
Crazy.
In 3 years. Okay. I gained almost 50 pounds, man. I can't I can't do that to myself, man. I can't. A Maryland winter, the winter in Maryland starts at what? Late October, early November when it's cold. Yeah, it might be. You might have some 60-degree days thrown in there, but by December, you're not. You know, heck, dude, you gotta bundle up to go to the gym. You got to get dressed like warm to go to the gym. And then you got to worry about catching a cold because you're sweating and all this other stuff. So literally, I could work out at home and never leave home. But I still had to deal with the fact that I had no control over my desire to eat my mother's food. So here I am, in a situation now where I'm comfortable with what I'm doing, and of course I know what I'm doing. Thank God when it comes to how to because I've done 5, 6, 7 day. My longest juice fast was like 11 days. So I've done juice fasts before. I've done 3 or 4 day, smoothie fasts. And I know what it does to my body. I know how I feel after that. Just take care of yourselves, people. That's all. That's all I have to say.
Yep. I think that's a good way to sum it up. The only thing I'd add to that is if you are noticing your hangovers lasting longer and longer, you are well past the time to start making this transition. But it's never too late. So start now, and then we'll see you in more and more podcasts. Well, we love anybody who watches these after it's gone live. Keep checking out our channel. We have more ridiculous things to say. We have more advice to dish out because we have solved all of the problems on Earth. You just have to come to us to find them. So check out American Micro on YouTube. We have a few other places that we do stuff. Rodney checks out Facebook once in a while. There's TikTok. You can check out Rodney on TikTok. I don't know if we do the place formerly known as Twitter very often, but yeah, I'm not going to go there.
Not at all. Can't stand it.
Okay. All right. Well, again, we're American Micro. Thank you so much for talking to us. This was kind of our first live event, but we're going to do more and more live stuff. And we will see you in the next one. Rodney, I'll see you inside.
All right, buddy. Peace.